Hello, everyone. I'm Kurt Lidke, board chair for Klamath Film, the presenters of the 11th Annual Klamath Independent Film Festival. And you just watched Monsters Are Real. Joining us is director Ron Huffstutter, who originally is from Klamath Falls, now based in Los Angeles, and was part of this very fascinating, little disturbing, little dark, with an interesting twist short film. Ron, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Kurt, for having me.
So this film, Monsters Are Real, has some really interesting character development. Our lead takes a very sharp turn, a very distinct detour from what we think they are into what it ends up being. Hopefully, this wasn't too much of a traumatic experience for our audience. But how did this story come about? How did the concept for Monsters Are Real get developed?
It's like I always like working in the realm of like horror and stuff, and the kind of the suspense genre. And I'm always thinking of, okay, what kind of monster are we gonna have? Are we gonna have a Freddy Krueger? Are we gonna have a zombie, or a vampire, some kind of form of evil? And I mean, honestly, humans are probably the biggest form of evil. Like the normal people that you think are normal, or and they're set to some kind of breaking point, and they slowly become a monster. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to express here. And I just think that you can make a scary monster or a Hellraiser and stuff like that, and I love that. I love that genre, and then all those kind of films. But to me, the scariest kind of films are with real people, and seeing normal people become absolutely insane.
And that's a very valid point, because the way that this film starts, you feel something for the lead. You feel like this
Oh,
is a
thank you for saying that too, because that's kind of what we were trying to project. It's always funny to see too, because sometimes couples watch it together, or I've screened it with friends and stuff like that, and they pick sides pretty quick, or or there's judgments. I mean, yeah, initially, yeah, writing the script too, it's like we wanted you, okay, this is a real person, and he's been hurt and scarred in so many ways, and these are the results of those scars. And so, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Didn't
it's
interrupt.
it's an interesting character arc, because it's a person that when we first meet them in the film, you can try to understand and sympathize. Okay, maybe there's someone who has made some mistakes, but they're trying to mend that. They're trying to be better. They're trying to make things right. And then suddenly it takes a very, very interesting shift, and you realize, oh, actually, no, this person is vindictive as all get out, and is really going to a
Yes.
very, very dark and disturbing place, and bringing the family along with them against their will. Was this just simply a narrative that came to you, or is this based out of any sort of experience or people known? Or, I mean, maybe not to this extreme, but
Yeah.
all fiction starts with some point of truth thrown in, and then
Oh, yeah.
it
It's
takes
a
it in
lot of
different
script
direction.
writing, and these kind of narratives are taking something and then putting it to the extreme. I mean, a lot of this kind of stuff, it's not based off of one or two things, or God, definitely not me. Let's just but like there's a lot of people in relationships, and a lot of people talk to me or vent about their relationships, male or female. So you kind of hear like the crazy side of this story, or this guy wouldn't leave me alone kind of thing, or this girl, like my wife or my girlfriend cheated on me, and what am I going to do? We have a kid. And just like all the raw emotions that you hear from friends or family at their darkest time and stuff. And you kind of think this would be the push, this would be the ultimate push of the things they're saying. If they don't have anybody that's kind of talking them down or calming them down, there is a possibility that they could lose their mind and do this. If somebody loses everything, they're fully invested, all they have is their family, then everything else in their life is going to fall apart. Originally we talked about doing this as a feature and stuff, funding was part of the thing. And we wanted to create a feature of it, like where you kind of saw his life fall apart. He was a construction worker or something, yada yada. And it just, he couldn't go to work, he couldn't function in everyday society, because his entire life was based around his marriage and his family. And once that went away, he had nothing to fall back on. And that was kind of the desperation times. Like he just felt like he was not fit to live in society at all. So what's the best thing? Let's just go to the woods, and live off the land and just, kind of slowly go crazy.
So the production of this film, where did you shoot it, and how did the cast and crew all come together?
The cast and the crew, first of all, I mean, we've made a lot of like shorts, and well, some aren't shorts, 50, 60 minutes, even out of college over at Southern Oregon University in Ashland. So I met a lot of the crew and stuff through there. Todd Wilson's our DP, and he's amazing. He shot our film Refuge and Truth About Daisies in this film. And I mean, we've had a connection, through working through other directors and producers in Southern Oregon. We just kind of clicked. And yeah, I mean, all the crew that collected, like Levi Anderson, Twinissa Cox, Parker Mills, it's all people either met through college or just the local Southern Oregon, family of filmmakers, like really. So it's like when the time came, I was like, we got some money. It's not like a whole lot, but I can actually pay everyone, and we're gonna go and have fun for a week. And that's just kind of what happens. Everybody's on the same mindset. Everybody's very focused on making a film that's gonna make a $20,000 or $10,000 like short and make it look like $1,000,000. And that's the whole, I kind of feel like that's the whole recipe for Southern Oregon film and stuff a lot of times is taking those small budgets and stretching them, because the talent out there is amazing.
So
And
largely Southern Oregon University alumni or students involved. So was it in the general Ashland area where you shot this?
yeah, Mount Ashland. And oh god, my mind is I've been on set for 4 days, a 16-day feature right now in Vegas. Trying to think of yeah, mostly I'm just gonna say Southern Oregon for right now. But yeah, Mount Ashland, and Rogue River. Sorry, Rogue River. Shout out to Rogue River. Sorry for forgetting you for 2 seconds. Yeah, my brain is in production mode. Yeah, and yeah, so I talk to people out here, and I'm in Vegas right now, and in Los Angeles is where I'm residing. And I always talk to people like, well, if you want to go to a place that's where people will embrace you to make film, it's going to be Southern Oregon. I mean, you have everything. You can have like a desert backdrop. You can have a kind of city backdrop. You can have the woods, and the ocean is there. And every film that we've done for Tunnel 13 Films, it's kind of a different background. And I would suggest any filmmakers utilize everything you can in Oregon, because there's so much production value that's just out there.
So the production itself, this is by its very nature, by its very structure, a very disturbing film that may shock some audiences, but on set it's not always especially if you're working with friends, it can be a very fun and lighthearted experience, and certainly every film has its share of bloopers. So anything really stand out from the course of making this that's maybe a fun memory or just something really unique or kind of hilarious looking back that occurred?
Yeah, we have a drone shot of our lead, Mark Natoli, and some cold water. And we had a skeleton crew. It was just the DP and the AD and him. And I wasn't even there for part of it. I had to like come by the near end and stuff. And I was just like, we were trying to go to another location, kind of splintered off on a second unit. And the whole idea was of him this is him bathing. So he got down naked and jumped in the water, no shame. He's slipping on rocks and we're trying to get him by the waterfall, and he's just like sneaking there. He's very Martin is very willing. He's from Australia, Melbourne and stuff, and he's very willing to do anything for the film. And I embrace it, but in a safe way. You know what I mean?
Right.
But no, it's great. You can kind of see when you're watching the final cut, like the best shot we had. You can kind of see him slipping a little bit on rocks while he's washing his hair, and kind of notice and get a little two cheek salute. And we're
So
saying too, it is a disturbing movie, but it was kind of funny because besides a little butt cheek, there isn't really. I don't think there's any f bombs or anything. It's actually kind of a PG-13ish film, which even for me surprises me.
it's an interesting take because I feel like these days it's harder to shock audiences because we've seen
Yeah,
so much on film. There was a time where you just throw in a little bit of gore and people are just stunned, and now we're numb to that, and we're numb to language, and we're numb to violence, and it takes much more effort than it used to in the. And I love old classic film, but what was once considered thrillers are pretty tame by today's standards. So if nothing else, I would say kudos for taking the approach of, instead of just creating some generic monster, guy in a suit that's out, no motivation, just killing people for the sake of killing, finding a means within humanity to kind of bring out the darkest side. And maybe we haven't seen enough of that because a lot of our judges were like, wow, this is really shocking. I'm like, well, maybe that's mission accomplished then, because that's sort of the
absolutely.
point, right? Is to maybe
Yeah.
take a different tact in the horror or thriller genre.
I mean that's it right there. What does a director, writer, filmmaker want the most? I want the disturbed, I want the laugh or the cry. That's the best kudos, besides like a standing ovation, is the viewer is going to feel some sort of emotion. And that's fantastic. I don't want it to just be anything I make to be like junk food TV or junk food movie that people just kind of just watch and process, and it's in the background. you know I'd rather have them feel some kind of emotion. And like you said, it's a little different. If anything, people are very sensitive, especially in these times right now. And I feel like these kind of characters and these kind of stories like bring up a lot of discussions. I mean, if you want to, dive into that and feel that thing, it's going to bring a lot of discussions about how people feel in relationships, and I guess mental health. And like I said, I've had couples watch the movie and then just start arguing because they're like, well, no, she cheated on him, and she broke up the family and broke his heart. And then, like, no, he's a complete psycho and you should have let it go. And this is and it's to me, it's like, as the writer, it's like I never meant to make any character. I mean, obviously he was always going to be take it too far, and he's the villain at the end of it, obviously. But I did want the audience to kind of feel for him first, and then you flip it around and you're like, oh shit, you went too far. And so it's very interesting to me at the end of the festival run here that I'm hearing that a lot in discussions of like the male female split on it is just incredibly interesting to me from a psychological standpoint. But yeah, I love it. I mean, that's what it is. If people are having discussions, or I don't want people to break up for it, or couples to have too bad of arguments about it. I mean, but is kind of the point of some of this films, is to open up those conversations. Because one thing that's happening right now is people are not having conversations to work anything out. Everybody's just like, no, that's offensive, no, that's bad, you're this or you're that. And at least this kind of spreads the playing field and like opens up a discussion for people. And that's kind of what I hope the end game is.
As the writer or director, if people are discovering nuances and things within the story and are praising you for it, that's when you just smile and nod and say, oh yeah, sure. And then you can walk out like, I never even realized the story had that in it, but that's cool.
I
If that's
Yeah,
something you want to
there's
remember,
always
yeah, okay.
coincidences. I question like Stanley Kubrick in The Shining that everything was a everything was a message or whatever. He's a genius, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I always find those happy things. It's like, oh wow, like I didn't even, this was in the shot, or this was here or something like that, and it kind of goes with the story. And every once in a while, somebody will say something. I'll be like, yes, yes, it's my genius.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad you picked up on that. That's wonderful.
And
Happy.
it's probably somebody from art department that was like, oh, this is great. I'll just take this here or something, and I didn't notice, or you're doing 100 things on set at the same time. And so some genius on set, because once again, it's a collaborative thing. And right now I'm actually in the middle of a set too. So yeah, it's always collaborative and becomes a family thing, and everybody's like adding stuff to it. And you hope everybody's kind of, invested in the film. That's what I like about the Southern Oregon film family is, everybody in the crew is reading the script. Everybody in the crew is invested, and we've all known each other for a long time. So we're all trying to make something that stands out. And I love that.
So, is there any aspect of this film we haven't talked about that you want to make sure gets mentioned, or any takeaways that you hope the audience has outside of developing PTSD having watched this film?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I'll take this time to advertise tunnel13films.com. We have stuff on YouTube. We're really kind of pushing for, hopefully we'll be back at the Klamath Independent Film Festival with a feature in the next couple of years. It's always a process. Obviously finding money is always the big thing. The talent, the filmmaking talent is already here. We have all that ready to go, and we have enough scripts. But yeah, I just, want to keep making films, and I feel like a lot of us, filmmakers and stuff, and that's kind of the goal. I don't know if everybody wants to be rich and famous. It's just making enough money to make the next film and tell the next story, and being able to, pay your bills. And that's a happy place. And if anything else comes from it, awesome. But the number one thing is we need people like you that are out here watching and supporting independent films to watch and spread it, and send the YouTube videos and share it with your family, or share it on your Facebooks or social media, just so people can see it. Because that means the world. That means more than $1. It's about who can see it. It's about the numbers of people seeing it, and that's the whole point of what we're doing.
Well, thank you, Ron, so much for creating Monsters Are Real and submitting it for the Klamath Independent Film Festival. And we look forward to seeing your work again in the future. And also thank you for continuing to represent Klamath Falls and Klamath County in the film industry as you progress in your career.
Oh, thank you so much. And I want to apologize to everybody, because I'm doing this on the phone. We're working on a film actually on Peru right now. So it's very I had to wait while everybody's sleeping in the morning and sneak out to our grip van, and
I'll see if I can add
video. So
some
it kind
camera
of looks like I'm
stabilization.
kind of looks like I'm staring off to the side, but I think we'll be fine. Thank you, everybody. Silent Independent Film Festival. I love you guys, and yeah, many more years.